let's shift to something exciting, uranium. Uranium is the hottest commodity on the planet. Gold's a bit boring. Uranium is hot. We're seeing a huge demand for uranium, particularly with data centers around the world, and we are a pure play uranium stock. So we have 160 million pound of assets globally. 60-odd% of those, 70% of those are in Namibia, a great jurisdiction to be in, and also in Australia. So two sort of Namibia is a tier 1 uranium mining jurisdiction. Australia is a tier 1 mining jurisdiction. So in Namibia, we've made 4 discoveries in a period of 4 years, so we've had a lot of success there. And in Australia, we've got some high-grade assets. So just a quickie on our corporate structure. We have 3 directors. That's a minimum you need on one of them. We don't waste money on directors. We have 2 management on one of them. We don't waste money on the top of our structure. We spend the money on exploration and development of our company. We're in the middle of a capital raising at the moment. And I say in the middle, we've just raised 25 million Australian dollars 3 weeks ago, but it's a 2-tranche placement. So you see there 340 million shares. We've still got another 44 million to issue post a general meeting on the 12th of December to approve that. So cash position 7.1 at the end of September. That'll rise by another 25 million shortly. So we're looking in a pretty good position to take the projects forward. And when you look at the shareholders, we've got skin in the game. 5.1% of the company is owned by management, and Mrs. Hill, that's my wife if you weren't sure, she's got 3.1%. So I have to be nice to her because she controls the purses. So what we've got is we've developed an upgrade process. It's a process that lowers our cost base. We developed it many years ago, and now we've got a project to apply it to. The Koppies Project is 66 million pound. 56 million pound is in the Koppies resource itself, and 44 million pound of that is in indicated status. So if we're producing at 3 million pound per annum, which would put us in the top 10 in the world outside of Kazakhstan, we're a significant player. We've got 15 years of life, and then we haven't converted a lot of our inferred to indicated. So we've got a plus 20-year mine life ahead of us. So that's what we're really focusing on now, getting Koppies into production. And at the same time, 4 discoveries in 4 years, you heard me say. 2 of those now, Koppies and Heribab, are both resources. Next year, we expect Namib 4, the third, to be a resource, and the 4th discovery of Koppies to be a resource. So that's a fairly good success rate. 4 discoveries in 4 years, converting to 4 resources shortly after that. And we have the largest land position for nuclear fuels in Namibia, so what's next? We probably have a few more discoveries under our belt. So when you look at the upgrade process, I just want to focus on what it is without giving the secrets away. Otherwise, that would be not good for us. What we have is a process developed in-house, and what it does is it concentrates gangue minerals and throws them away. So that's counterintuitive and hence innovative and subsequently patentable. So we've got 3 patents around the world on that. So we call it a process, not a technology, because the unit operations we use are conventional unit operations you find in a gold, base metal, mineral sands plant, off-the-shelf items. So we just configure them unconventionally. So it's not technology, it's simply just processing, but just done a little bit differently and focusing on the gangue minerals, as I say, and throwing them away. That's the key to what we do. We think we can reject 95% of the mass before leaching, which is a huge amount. And as a consequence, the capital cost of our plant, because our plant's going to be so much smaller, our leach circuit's going to be very small, it's going to be about half of what our peers would be with conventional processing. We also think the operating cost, because we're a lot smaller, again at the back end, where the highest unit cost operation is the leach, we're also going to be a 50% reduction in operating costs. So that's a significant saving. And when you're looking at our peers, say, half the capital cost, half the processing cost, it just makes it quite compelling. So hence it's important for us to take this process to the next step. And the next step is putting it through a beneficiation, a demonstration plant, through the beneficiation process. So that's what we're planning to do over the next year in Namibia. Excuse me. But one of the things I want to look at in this photo here, these photos, is we've been focused on calcrete hosted uranium in Namibia, as our peers have been, both Langer Heinrich and Deep Yellow, Orano's project called Koppies, all focused on shallow paleo channels. What we're finding is that we've got mineralisation outside the paleo channels. So for us, these 2 photos show the mineralisation outside of paleo channel in something called weathered basement. Still very shallow. That photo on the left is 3 metres from surface in a test pit we excavated at Koppies. And when you wet the face, you can see the carnotite. The carnotite is the yellow uranium mineral, beautiful colour, a little bit like my tie. So that if we can see it, we can probably concentrate it. So as a metallurgist, I'm excited about what I see in that photo. As an MD, I'm even more excited because I know the cost implications of being able to concentrate that carnotite into a small mass. So what that's done is it's added pounds to us, but it's also added another dimension to our exploration program. So our geos now have the task of going not only finding paleo channels, we're going finding weathered basement outside of the paleo channels. That's not as easy to find, but when you're drilling at $1,000 a hole, it sort of throws conventional exploration out the window because you want to go and do geophysics. People spend millions on geophysics. Well, $1,000 a hole and drilling 5 holes a day per rig, you can really rip through the holes. So it doesn't mean we're going to drill all of Namibia, but what it means is that we can hit targets and hit them fairly quickly and get answers back pretty straight away. Because if you're not familiar with uranium, you have a scintillometer with you when you're drilling. You put it on the bag as it comes out. Yes or no, it's got uranium in it. It's pretty easy. So it's not that easy because we're good at it. No, it's not having to wait 3 months for an assay. It's here's an instant feedback for us. So, and when you look at, so I've said the costs of processing are going to be low. This is the depth profile of the Koppies resource. 50% is within 7 metres of surface. That's really, really shallow. So our mining costs are going to be low. Our strip ratio is going to be low. So hence, we think that it's justifiable to say that our operating costs are going to be half our peers because of our shallow nature of the ore and because of our innovative upgrade process. So looking at Namibia in a bigger picture, we've got the largest land position with nuclear fuels in the country. Why have we picked Namibia? Namibia is the 3rd largest producer in the world. As I said, it's a tier 1 uranium mining jurisdiction. The sovereign risk for mining uranium in Namibia is less than it is in Australia. Now, most people look at that and go, really? Well, Namibia has been operating the Rossing mine for 48 years on a continuous basis, long before most of you were born. And then it's also developed 3 mines, Koppies, Langer Heinrich and Husab in the last 16 years. And then it's also given 2 mining licenses in the last 12 months. So we've got a history of processing, we've got a history of development, and a history of licensing recently. And it's the only country in the world with a dedicated uranium association. So they actually go to conferences around the world and tell us others what they do. So it's an exceptional postcode to be in. Really pleased to be there. Having the largest land position with nuclear fuels, having 4 discoveries in 4 years is important for us. We think we've got more discoveries in us. And with exploration at $1,000 a hole, it's rather inexpensive exploration and doesn't break the budget. And we think we can find more uranium to add to our pounds whilst we're developing the upgrade process. So Koppies Project is where we're focused. It, as I say, it's 66 million pound. We've now got 44 million pound into indicated status, which is important for us. It's the first stage of the de-risking process. Next stage is taking the demonstration plant to Namibia, operating it on the Koppies ore to prove it at scale and to prove it on a continuous basis before we're leading into a study. So we think there's plenty of potential left in this area. The other 2 discoveries in this area, Urabeb, that's a 10 million pound maiden resource announced a month and a half ago. We're now drilling, there's 20% of that's outside of the paleo channel, 20% in weathered basement. We're drilling along where we think there's a contact. We're finding mineralisation. So we think that resource is going to grow. We've gone to Namib 4 on the bottom left of this map, and where I can tell, I've taken a few people and shown them carnotite on the surface. Carnotite on the surface doesn't mean you've got a resource, but what we're finding is we're doing a lot more exploration outside of paleo channel, again, finding more uranium. So we think that's going to stack together and a resource next year. And there's a bit larger area there that we need to work on as well. So all the lessons we learned from Koppies we're applying to our other tenements and tenements that we haven't explored on yet. So we're expecting our success to continue. So the news flow coming up is all around the upgrade process. We're doing a bench scale test work program in Australia. We're going to build a demonstration plant in Australia. We're going to transport it to Namibia. We're going to run it in Namibia next year. And then that'll prove the upgrade process. It'll prove it at scale on a continuous basis. It will then lead into a study. That study will then demonstrate the cost benefits of the upgrade process. So That's important to us. We don't need to raise any more money before we do that. At the same time, we've got minimum expenditure commitments in Australia and Namibia. We'll be spending money on our tenements, but you know, when we talk about $1,000 a hole, we're going to continue exploring Namibia over and above our expenditure commitments because we think we can add pounds. Pounds are important for us to increase our project pipeline and add value to the company. So we'll continue to do that in Namibia. We also got projects in Australia. We've got the Angela project just south of Alice Springs in the Northern Territory, 31 million pound of resource at 1300 ppm. We've identified by seismic that there's a lens, the lens is mineralised. We've identified a lens underneath it. We need to go and drill it to find out if it's mineralised. It may not be mineralised, but if you don't drill it, you don't know. Minerva, north of Alice Springs, it was drilled in 1978, hasn't been drilled since. There was 10 holes with mineralisation in excess of 10,000 ppm. So we think that that's something that we need to go and follow up, understand it with diamond holes, and then work out how we're going to advance that project in terms of exploration on it. So there's a lot of work coming out of us, both on the upgrade front, but also on the exploration front. So just in summary, we've got 160 million pound globally. We are pure play uranium. We're not distracted by the commodity. We have a process that's industry leading, lowers the cost base by half, both capital and operating. Very important for catalyst for us to grow the company. We've got a proven discovery team. 4 discoveries in 4 years in Namibia is very good. 2 of those now resources, with 2 going to be resources next year. Significant portfolio growth. For anybody that was in the audience last year, we've grown by 45 million pound since this time last year. So significant growth. And what better time to be in the uranium industry? Every time I wake up in Perth, there's some news coming out of the US overnight. Google, Amazon, Microsoft, all going off-grid with data centers. By 2030, 12% of the US's electricity will be consumed by data centers. So we need reliable baseload energy that is there when these data centers need it. If we're going to be, in Australia, if we're going to be a rich country, we need nuclear. If we're going to be a poor country, we'll go down the renewables path, because renewables, I don't know about you lot, but when you walk home at night time in London, the sun doesn't shine. So there's no solar. There wasn't much wind blowing yesterday, so there's no wind. So I'm not sure where you're going to get your power from. Our politicians in Australia seem to think the sun shines 24/7. So they're not very clever. But, you know, the demand for uranium is going to well and truly outweigh the supply. We're well short of it now. We're producing about 150 million pound a year, and we need 200 million pound. That's just going to grow. And I think we underestimate how much energy is required for these data centers. And if we don't have data centers and AI under our control, it goes to the east, then we become a very poor country. So we are in a commodity that is continue to going to get hot. I believe the uranium price is going to be in excess of $150 a pound later next year. And the reason for that is the demand growth story. So I think it's a fantastic story from a uranium perspective and us, and I think it's a fantastic story from a commodity perspective in terms of nuclear demand. So thanks for listening. And